First story. I regret believing my cheating wife's false accusations and helping ruin an innocent man's life. Now he has committed self-harm. And my ex-wife is happy the truth won't come out. My ex-wife is responsible for a fellow airman's self-harm. I 29F have been thinking about making this post for a long time, but I've had no idea how to put it into words or how to get the story out. This is all mostly speculation on my part, as I don't have any actual proof. Just a lot of circumstantial stuff. I'm not going to name drop any of the bases I was stationed at or any of the people involved, as I don't exactly want this story getting back to the military or affecting anyone I know personally. I just joined the military back in early 2017. No one in my family has been military and going into it, and so I was going into this blind basically. I went to basic and met my now ex-wife. And yes, I made the stupid decision mistake a lot of military does in marrying someone I had known for a very short amount of time. We met in basic training, and in hindsight, I was only trying to cling to someone because I was scared of being alone, and that far away from home for the first time. Nothing inappropriate happened between us during basic. I wasn't willing to mess up my career, but we maintained contact after basic and got married during tech school. This is where I should have taken a sign from the universe, because I was set to go to an awesome base in a really cool part of the world. But getting married to her changed my orders to a very small base in the western part of the United States. She arrived at the duty station first, and then I arrived there shortly after around October. We moved into a cute house and started trying to build a life together. For some context, my ex-wife had experienced some physical abuse during childhood, so she had a lot of triggers and issues I was trying to help her deal with. Nothing ever seemed to improve during our marriage, and maybe I'll sound like an arsehole for this, but as the new relationship love blinders began to come off, it seemed like she played into her traumas a lot and used them for attention. She would introduce herself to people and almost immediately divulge her past. "Hi, my name is, and this is what happened to me in my childhood." It was like she thought this was the most interesting thing about her. But I digress. We spent a very short time at this base, only about 8 months, during which time she spent a stint of time in a mental health facility. While she was there, I would go to visit, and one day when visiting, these girls ran up to me and told me she had been kissing a random guy in the courtyard. I asked her side, and of course I let her convince me that they were making it up and had a skewed view of what had actually happened. I should have listened to them and trusted my gut. When she finally got back from the facility, she had made a friend while there that was stationed at the same base as us. She had time off work to reacclimate, and so did he. This is a different guy from the one she had been supposedly kissing in the courtyard, BTW. They started spending a lot of time together. One day she came to pick me up from work, and they were together in her car. When she pulled up, he was in the front seat, and she told me to get in the back. I thought it was weird since we were married, but I let it slide and just got in. They proceeded to basically ignore me and talk to each other. I had a really bad gut feeling that she was cheating on me with him, but I had no real proof besides the feeling and their weird behavior, so I let it go and tried to ignore the feeling. It's been some years now, so I don't really remember why they stopped hanging out, but their hangouts eventually became less frequent and then stopped altogether. I'm going to skip forward a little to the day of the biggest incident. I was at work on a Friday evening. I was an MP. I was posted at a gate, and over the radio I heard them ask one of my flight members to drive down the road I live on, because a neighbor reported seeing a man peeping in windows. The person they asked to go check it out was one of my friends. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about him here, but he was hesitant to do his job a lot. I think he loved his job, but it made him nervous. So I believe he did drive down my street, but I don't think he did much of a check, to be honest. I also texted my wife after hearing that to make sure she was okay, and I don't think I heard back from her for a while. I didn't think anything of that because she was usually painting or watching one of her TV shows or something of that nature. And I was also preoccupied because I was at work. But he comes back across the radio and says he didn't see anything suspicious, and that situation ended for the evening. A couple of days later, I was back at work again when my wife texted me, and she told me that she had to tell me something. She asked me not to tell anyone, and she proceeded to tell me that the neighbor had saw her on Friday. My head started spinning, and I told her she shouldn't ask me not to say anything, because it was literally in my job description to be a mandatory reporter. When I said that to her, she freaked out and drove to the building where I work, got out of her car, and dramatically collapsed on the stairs in front of the building, crying and basically shouting what had happened to her. The next few hours were a whirlwind of interviews, statements, reports, talking to higher command, and being told we could move to a new base. My head was still spinning, I had never even been around a situation like this, and so I had no idea what to do except try to be there for her. A day or so later, I finally got the whole story from her. She said the neighbor had come over and come in through the garage. She asked him what he was doing there, and he replied, "You look tense. Let me rub your shoulders." And she didn't question that. She just accepted his offer. After a minute, he said it would be easier if she took her shirt off, so she did. And then he suggested it would be easier if she was lying down, so they moved into the guest room on the bed. And that's where she said he flipped her over and embedded on her chest. Believe me, I know how unbelievable this all sounds now. At the time, I don't know why I didn't see any of the red flags in this story. Skipping forward a bit, they moved us to a new base closer to my family, as she didn't want to move closer to her family because she wasn't close with them. Moving there is when our marriage really started to deteriorate. The new squadron I was assigned to was horrible with corrupt leadership, so work life was awful. And I tried to be patient with my wife. I'd come home from work and clean the house and try to take care of everything so she didn't have to worry about any of it. She ended up in a mental facility 2 more times, but overall, she never seemed to improve. My life turned into being extremely unhappy at work and coming home to a constantly trashed house, so I spent all of my time either working or cleaning. I was in a borderline self-harming state for a long time because of how all of this was affecting my mental health. I'm going to skip around a bit because there's a lot of insignificant things that happened to don't matter too much for this story. But one day, I had a friend I had made on flight, and he started hanging out with my wife and me a lot. One afternoon, we were all out in town together when I told them I needed to go to 2 or 3 more stores. They didn't really want to go, so they said they were going to go back to our house to hang out. Well, I ended up finding everything I needed at one store, so I went back to the house early. When I got there, I found the front door locked. I unlocked the door and went in and found no one in the living room except my dog. So I walked up to my dog and started to pet him. And that's when my wife came running down the hallway from our bedroom. And she made a playful growling sound at my dog and then looked up at me and said, "Oh, hey, I was just in the bedroom." And then my friend came walking out of my room down the hall, and he said, "Oh hey, I was just in the bathroom looking at my eyebrows in the mirror." I looked at them both really weird, and I felt like I was in some weird sitcom all of a sudden. I just blew past it at the time, but it never left my mind. It was so effing weird the way they acted. Now, at this time, for more context, I was so unhappy in my marriage that I was honestly hoping to catch her cheating. I knew how badly I had messed up, and I really didn't want to have to admit that to anyone. I wanted her to give me a good reason for divorce. I know how selfish and wrong that sounds. But honestly, I was so embarrassed by the way she could only ever talk about her trauma. She never had anything positive to say. Any conversation anyone ever had with her was either cringy, awkward, or she would act overtly sexual in any situation, even around my more traditional family. She was extremely controlling of me and anything I wanted to do with my time. She didn't even know how to make a funny joke. She would make odd jokes or uncomfortable ones, and would get mad at everyone when no one laughed. I wanted out so bad and didn't know how to do it. Skipping forward again, at this point, my head was completely out of my marriage. We were having a dinner party at my house with some of our mutual friends. She was not off work yet when most of them came over, but about an hour later she got off work and was headed home. She called me on the way home because I guess she wasn't feeling good, and she told me that she thought she either had a brain tumor or a blockage. I'm not gonna lie. My response was less than supportive. Because at this point, I was mentally done with her and all of her ridiculous behavior. I told her that if she thought she had a brain tumor, she should just go to the hospital. And she got mad at me because I did not offer to drive her. The hospital was less than 5 minutes away, by the way. One of our mutual friends, now my current wife, could tell I was really over it and offered to drive her to the hospital. I continued to sit around and have a good time with our friends now. For some context, this hospital takes an incredibly long time to see walk-ins in the emergency room. So during this time, I had half of a beer within a 3-hour period. We were expecting her to be there for upwards of 6 hours. She calls me after about 4 hours and tells me she is ready to be picked up and trying to be a responsible person. I told her that I was uncomfortable driving because I had half a beer, and I did not realize she would come out of the hospital that soon. She absolutely blew up on me and told me I was irresponsible and unreliable. One of my other friends offered to go pick her up, and while they were gone, we decided it would be best to move the party to someone else's house because of how she was going to be when she got back from the hospital. Sadly, we did not relay this information to him fast enough, so he got home before we were able to leave. My ex exploded out of the car, ran up to me, got right in my face and started yelling at me. My friend's mom jumped to my defense. She was very drunk at the time, so it was quite funny. But she got in my ex-wife's face and told her to leave me alone. My ex-wife threw a fit and then ran into the backyard. At that point, we decided to pack up as quickly as we could and leave. Keep in mind that at this point, it had been about 2 hours since I had had a sip of my last beer. I felt fine. I hopped in the car with one of my friends so we could leave, and I heard a screaming noise. I look over, and my ex-wife is running towards my car. So I put the car in drive and started to take off as she ran up and punched my window. I made it about half a mile away, and I waited to make sure that the rest of my friends made it out of there. I saw no other cars coming from that direction. So I turned around and went back. When I got back, 2 of my friends were trying to reason with her in the front yard. She, in her manic state, tried to get in her car and drive off. They were trying to get her to get out of her car. She turned the wheel very hard and almost ran over my friend as she was trying to back out. So he used his police officer voice and yelled at her to get out of her car. At that point, I decided it was time to call my squadron and have them send over her squadron's first shirt, basically like a counselor mediator. I also called my friend that I suspected she was cheating on me with and asked him to come over. Because they seemed to have a very close connection. I wanted her to have someone she could calmly talk to. She was removed from the house for 3 days so that we could both have space. When she got back home after 3 days, she sat down next to me on my porch and said to me, "It's not going to happen until you say it." To which I replied, "I want a divorce. I think I've given enough detail on my ex-wife and the situation at hand, so I'm just going to get into the other details." Fast forward to when I started confiding in my now wife. At the time she was married, but she was also going through a rocky situation. I'm not really going to go into that because that is not what the story is about, and those details don't really matter too much. My current wife is a very smart person. I told her basically this entire story in a lot more detail. She started to point it out to me. The holes in the story and the red flags that just did not make any sense. I already had my doubts and suspicions, but hearing it from somebody else started to put it in perspective. To add one more sad detail, one of my friends went on a TDY, a short deployment that was only 2 weeks long. When he got back, he told me that he ran into somebody from my old base, and they had a message for me. The message was that the person who had assaulted my wife had committed self-harm. He had hacked himself in his bathroom and, before doing so, transferred everything into his wife's name, including all of his money. I called my ex to inform her, and her response was very sarcastic. "Okay, you couldn't have just told me this over text." I just hung up the phone, and later that night she texted me, saying, "Do you think he did that to himself because of what he did to me?" I never replied to her because her responses seemed insane to me, and like she was trying to seem empathetic, even though she wasn't. Those responses made me start to doubt the incident even. For a little more context, after we moved to the new base, she and I had flown back and forth to the old base multiple times for court proceedings. I was not allowed to sit in the courtroom by everyone's side because they considered me to be a witness. I wish I had gotten to sit in the courtroom and heard his side of the story because things just don't add up. The evidence ended up being inconclusive, and the charges were dropped. Between my now wife and me, we both believe what happened was that Friday night when someone was peeping through the window. We think that my ex-wife knew that someone from my squadron saw what happened, or at least part of it, and she wanted to make an excuse for it before I found out that she had cheated on me with the neighbor. So, instead of just owning up to it, she decided it would be better to tell me that the neighbor had assaulted her, and I believe that she hoped I wouldn't say anything, and that it would just get swept under the rug. But when I reacted to it, she had to make a full-blown case out of it and go for the full story. She ended up ruining that poor man's life, his marriage, destroying his kids' lives, everything. When all of this was happening when I was still at my first base, all of my friends that I had been working with stopped talking to me. I had no idea what I had done then, and it's taken me a long time to come to this conclusion. But I think I finally know why. I believe that they think I was possibly in on it. With this much hindsight, I wouldn't blame any of them for believing that or feeling that way. I don't know how I did not see all of those red flags through every story and through all of her actions and everything that happened. I think that they believe I went along with it, so that we could get out of that small base and out of that state and go somewhere better. But the complete truth from me is that I had no idea. I don't know why I couldn't see it at the time. I was just trying to be a supportive spouse, and I truly believed that something bad had happened to her. After so much time of realizing the kind of person she is and how horrible she is, I no longer believe her side of the story. It's just got too many holes in it. She acted so friendly with our neighbor too. I believe she heavily flirted with him whenever I wasn't home. For the record, I finally did get confirmation after the divorce that she cheated on me. She ended up dating the guy she cheated on me with. He and I are still great friends to this day. I honestly don't care that happened between them. It got her to stop obsessing over me as much. But when she and him finally broke up, we asked him that day when she and him came walking out of our bedroom if they had been doing anything, and he admitted to it. That kind of put the nail in the coffin to every other suspicion I had ever had about her cheating on me. I honestly believe she had cheated on me multiple times with all of the guys. I suspected, and probably more. She is a narcissist and a very terrible person. Not to say that I'm a victim in all of this. I should have reasoned more with this and seen the flag sooner. I feel a lot of guilt over what happened to that poor man and his family. That is why I'm writing this now, even after all this time. To any of my friends in the Air Force, if you read this post, I want you to know how sorry I am, and I really hope you believe me when I say that I had no idea at the time. I was not trying to get out of that base. The one who ended up deciding to move us across the United States was her. At the time, I was just trying to be supportive. I haven't named-dropped any bases or named-dropped any people in the story, but I'm sure the details will let you know who I am. And if my ex-wife happens to read this post, for you, leave me alone. And please just let me have my peace. I didn't tell the story to dig up anything from the past. I didn't tell this story to stir in a drama. I just still feel incredibly guilty and want to get it off my chest. If you have any questions about any more details, put them in the comments section, and I will do my best to answer them. If you read this post all the way through, thank you. It's incredibly long. I'm sorry. Second story. My drug-addicted man-child boyfriend feels entitled to my 10K lottery winnings and demands I gift him a car after he dropped out of college, which I paid for. I paid our rent and donated everything to charity. Now he dumped me, so I kicked him out of my house, and he is threatening to file an illegal eviction. He's a full-time student who works part-time in the summer. I have a full-time and part-time job. He studies a lot. We live together and mostly live off my pay, while he stretches what he makes in the summer. Neither of us have ever owned a car because it isn't necessary where we live. We both walk or take the public everywhere to save money. In the morning, we stop at a corner shop shortly before splitting up for the day. He buys cigarettes and coffee. I buy fruit for my lunch, and, on the weekends, lottery tickets. He always makes fun of me for paying the stupid tax. But I figure my indulgence is cheaper and doesn't come with lung cancer. Sometimes I jokingly tell him not to expect a penny when I win. The day I won, he answered me with, "Fine, keep it all. It's not like I'm crying over a penny of nothing over here." I showed him I'd won. He stared for a bit, and then dismissively told me I'd probably spent more than that on tickets. In response, I asked what I should blow his half on for myself. I was honestly joking at the time, but he suddenly became angrier than I've ever seen him, and I didn't want to admit I'd been kidding because he was so pissed off it pissed me off. He wants a car, and I don't. He keeps trying to steamroller me, so I'm refusing to share the money. In honesty, I'm willing to spend or save the money for us, but I don't want a car. I won't use a car, and it will keep costing us money in parking and maintenance. After weeks of him sulking and lecturing me about his entitlement to the money, he took me to a car lot and tried to embarrass me into going along with him in front of a salesman. I threw a tantrum after we left without buying anything, and I went to my mom's and paid our rent up to the end of the year and donated the rest to charity. He doesn't know. I F-ed up and don't know how to come clean. TLDR. I haven't told my boyfriend I spent the money I won because I was upset he was being a DCK. He's already angry at me. What do I do? Top comments. Pseudonymously. I F-ed up and don't know how to come clean. I don't think you messed up at all. Deleted. Me neither. You spent your money buying the tickets. It's technically your winning money. It's not like you're married. That'd be a little different. He's just mad that he didn't support your buying the tickets in the first place. So now he looks entitled. I think you spent the money very wisely. Plus, now he doesn't have to worry about rent. He better not complain. Been through it in FedEx too. Agree. The only way this would be a F up is if OP has a tax bill coming due to the winning with no funds anymore to pay it. OP. No, I rounded down to $10,000 because I was counting after tax and a celebratory dinner. Spock 5 eyebrow. All in all, OP, you sound like a very level-headed person. Your boyfriend, on the other hand, sounds like a huge jerk. Why are you with someone who treats you like that? Breakup train. You paid up rent for both of you. Or just yourself. OP. It's my place from before dating him. I never ask him for rent because it costs me the same either way. Winged 17. Just to be clear, he's living rent-free, and you share finances, meaning you pay for everything unless his part-time job gives him enough hours. And he's demanding more money from you. Metrometric. I think you should seriously consider everyone's responses. Your boyfriend does not sound like he's respectful or appreciative of the effort you put into your relationship. That said, do you mean that your dad gave you money when you turned 18 so you could get yourself out of an abusive situation if you had to? Because that's the first I've heard of a parent doing that. But it's seriously an awesome idea. I know a few women who keep savings specifically because they want to have insurance in case of a bad situation. But never a parent initiating that sort of savings if I ever have children. I'm totally stealing that idea. OP. Yeah, my dad sat me down and gave me the grown-up talk about verbal and physical abuse and consent. How to recognize it, what to do, how not to be abusive. Then he gave me the money and explained how to use it. He did this for all his kids, boy or girl. Update. Reddit. Long story short, a couple months before I won, my boyfriend had secretly dropped out of school to join a Christian rock band. He's not Christian and bartend to cover his new coke habit, which explains so much. He took my winning as a sign. They were about to make it and should go on tour. That's why he wanted the car so damn much. Obviously, we had a huge fight. I sacrificed a lot because he told me he'd never be happy without that degree. And he threw it away to play rock star, while I ground myself down at dead-end jobs. I told him I agreed to support him through one dream, and if he was done with it, I was going after my dreams now. He made all kinds of promises to me about how he'll take care of me when he gets famous. But I told him the only promises I cared about were the ones he made when I agreed to help him through school. He broke up with me until I come to your senses. As far as I'm concerned, that's already happened, so I had his brother pick up his stuff. He tried to cause problems about me, illegally evicting him. But I reminded him I had some text conversations where he said, "Your apartment is your problem, and I don't live there anymore, so deal with it." I have no idea if that's legally enforceable, but neither does he. My lease is up in 3 months, and I won't have to worry about it after that. It's been really rough accepting. He's not the guy I fell in love with anymore. But the way he's been acting has made it a lot easier. I'm mostly angry I sunk so much of my time and money and compromised my future for him. But I guess it's better I found out now instead of later. I got tested in case he cheated or was doing other drugs, and so far so good. I'm also 9,000% sure my ex staged the 3 break-ins we had in our apartment after one of his friends told me around that time my then boyfriend was trying to sell my prescriptions and his laptop that I ended up replacing FFs that were supposedly stolen. I told the cops, and his friend agreed to make a statement, but I don't know what's happening with that yet. Other than that, I'm happy to report I'm only working one job now. That's actually something I want to do and pays way more. My apartment is much nicer without his junk. And now the toilet is never unflushed and the seat is always down. So I've got that going for me too. With all my free time, I've rescued a cat, and I'm learning to knit. I was planning on becoming an old cat lady, but I also went on my second first date ever. It was with another woman, which was kind of a surprise, but also somehow not. We've got a second date planned, and I'm incredibly giddy with anticipation, which is really nice. Oh, and I told my dad how much you liked his dump him fun consent conversation. And he said his grandma gave him one when he decided to get married at 18, not my mom. So he can't take credit for the idea. Edit. Thanks for all the well wishes, everyone. TLDR. My boyfriend dumped me. I can't complain. Top comments. Monsieur Leduc. Sorry. He turned out to be such a heel. Getting dumped is never fun. But a bullet was definitely dodged here. My apartment is much nicer without his junk. And now the toilet is never unflushed, and the seat is always down. So I've got that going for me. Which is nice. Sherlock 92. Being dumped is never fun. But I think in OP's case, it's the best thing that could have happened to her. And can't forget. With all my free time, I've rescued a kitten. Yay to rescue animals. Rogikide. Entitled, A Coke Addict, A Thief, etc. What a complete pile of human garbage. Congratulations on getting rid of him. Enjoy doing you, OP. Creeps __ ta. Lol. And wanted to be in a Christian rock band. Hilarious when you consider all of those factors together. Oracity. The toilet is never unflushed. The F. Did he not flush? OP. Not usually. which made it so much more lovelier that time I forgot to check the seat and fell in. RMRIC 0. Yay, kitty cat. Also, while this all really sucked for you to live through, I am sure that it will be the most delightful of anecdotes. Dropped out of school to join a Christian rock band is just about the dumbest life plan I can think of, especially given the general state of the music industry as a whole and of Christian rock in particular. OP. It's very unlike him. I thought he was messing with me until he showed me the video's not good. I don't know if coke explains all of what's going on. There may be other drugs I don't know about. He's not the same as when we met. I know that much. Update. My boyfriend broke up with me and left until I come to my senses. He is claiming letting his brother pick up his stuff is illegal eviction, even though I have texts from him saying he doesn't live there anymore. Could he have a case? I posted an update to our relationships after asking for advice, and someone recommended I make sure I can't get in legal trouble over the situation. I live in CA and had my apartment for 4 years. My ex lived with me for 3 years. He never paid rent or was on the lease. My landlord knew he was there, and he got mail there. My lease is up in 3 months, and I'm planning on moving. He left willingly, and when I texted him about some damage he'd done to the building that he'd promised our landlord he'd fix, he sent me 2 texts that I kept copies of saying, "Your apartment is your problem, and I don't live there anymore, so deal with it." He sent his brother to my place to pick up some music equipment, and I had his brother take all his stuff with him. My ex texted me angrily about how I couldn't just illegally evict him, but backed off when I sent him screenshots of the texts. Also, the police are currently investigating him for 3 break-ins to my apartment when he lived there based on one of his friends, making a statement that he tried to sell him my prescriptions and his laptop around that time. I don't know if that's relevant. Could he cause me any legal problems? Comments. Derspany. He voluntarily vacated, and he told you he wasn't coming back. You did what you could to give his property back. I think you're in the clear, and that it's unlikely someone on the receiving end of multiple police investigations will have time to sue you over a supposed illegal eviction. What are his damages? On the outside chance that he does sue, get advice from a lawyer. But I think you've largely covered yourself. _rogue_. Legal advice Enal. You've already got evidence of him admitting willfully vacating the apartment and going the extra mile to even return his stuff even after the "I don't live there." By and large, you're in the clear. If you're served, show up. If the police come, show them those texts and potentially your landlord as well beforehand. Unwanted personal advice. 3 break-ins to my apartment when he lived there based off one of his friends, making a statement that he tried to sell him my prescriptions. Keep him as an ex. Third story. Delusional, creepy friend accused me of being jealous after I took down her TikTok videos of my husband, which she recorded secretly because he is hot. I 28F am friends with this girl. Let's call her June, also 28F. In fact, my husband 32M, and I often hang out with June and her boyfriend. That is, go on double dates, have weekend trips, etc. We've known each other for over 2 years. I would say that we 4 were pretty tight as a group up until this weekend. My husband is an orthodontist. One of his patients is June's half-sister, Rhea 12F. June is often the one accompanying Rhea to her dental appointments. June is also a small-time online influencer. She's always recording and vlogging and stuff. Though my husband and I have made it clear to her, and we're absolutely not okay with our faces in her vlogs online, and she seemed to respect that boundary. We don't use social media apart from Reddit, and we trusted her word when she said she's not going to post us online. Cut to last weekend. My brother sent me this TikTok link with the message, "Dude, you gotta watch this." I opened the link, and it directed me to June's TikTok account. She doesn't have many followers, less than 10,000. But the particular video he sent me had like 500,000 views likes, I'm not sure which. Lo and behold, it was a video compilation of my husband with the title "God, I see what you've done for others." The video was honestly the creepiest thing I've ever seen. She had recorded my husband during various of our double dates together, and it was clear he wasn't even aware he's being recorded. In some of the clips, she would start with her face, and then pan the camera towards my husband with a cutesy expression and mouthing words like "oh my god." The worst one was where he was working on her half-sister, Rhea, wearing scrubs, and she'd recorded even that. She didn't even bother to blur out the kid's face while she was lying on the dental chair. I showed the video to my husband, and he was horrified. He said it made him so uncomfortable and violated, knowing that someone had been secretly recording him. He was angry that she'd recorded him working on a patient. He texted her, asking to take down the video and delete every video she has of him. First she feigned ignorance, then she said that she meant no harm, and that it was all for online engagement, since, I quote, TikToks with hot guys go viral very fast, and that she'd gained a lot of followers after posting that. This was all so weird. But my husband and I got our families and friends to report the video, and thankfully it's being taken down now. This pissed off June, and she sent me a long text saying how I was jealous of her online success, and that I couldn't stand seeing her succeed, blah blah blah. I replied, saying, "You're delusional and unhinged. You're not successful, and you'll never be. Stay away from us, you creepy weirdo." Now she's all weepy and depressed, and has been telling our common friends how mean I was to her. She's also been posting about mental health on her socials, and about how mean some women are with their words. Ada has no consensus bot. OP was NTA. Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. You and your husband had set clear boundaries, and she violated those boundaries. This shows that she does not respect you all at all. I recommend cutting her off entirely, as anyone who disturbs your peace is not worth your time. OP, yes, we're cutting her off entirely. I don't know if her boyfriend is aware of this or not, but I guess he'll have to be collateral damage, because I don't want her to weasel her way back into our lives. Commenter 2. NTA. People who think online engagement is more important than basic human decency are sadly not at all uncommon. And they are, as you say, delusional and unhinged. Their success is not real, and except in a very few cases, it never will be. OP. It's psychotic, honestly. My husband is so freaked out about this. I feel so bad for him. Commenter 3. He might need to drop the half-sister as a patient and/or tell the parents that June is not allowed to accompany her anymore. I agree, that is a creepy weirdo. If she can't get followers or likes without lying and getting consent for people to be recorded, then she needs to find a new career. OP, yes. He's in the process of informing her parents. I don't think he's going to drop her as a patient, as her treatment is almost done, and it's going to be a hassle for her to find a new orthodontist. Commenter 4. He needs to ban her sister, your former friend, from the room while he is treating the patient. He needs to have a female staff member assist him, and act as chaperone should your friend try to make baseless accusations. OP. There's a rule in his practice that a female dental assistant has to present whenever the male doctors are working on female patients, as most of the patients are young kids, teens, and they might be more comfortable with a woman around. Even in the video she posted, there is a woman assisting my husband. He's reached out to the kids' parents. They're being given two choices. Either they chaperone their daughter, or they need to find a different orthodontist. I really hope it doesn't come to baseless accusation, though. OP updated in the same post 2 days later. Update. I don't want to make another post for the same thing, and I doubt I'm going to be updating again. My husband's practice reached out to Raya's parents and informed them about the situation via an email, as they wanted everything documented, like I mentioned in the comments. The parents have responded. They are shocked and very, very apologetic. They have agreed to chaperone Raya on her appointments instead of June. They wanted to meet my husband personally to apologize, but he informed them that that wouldn't be necessary. June's TikTok video is still in the process of being taken down. No new updates on that. I guess she contested the reports or something. I'm not entirely sure. My husband and I have blocked her. My brother is keeping an eye on her account, though, just in case she posts something else about us. We'll see what to do when it happens. We're going to be consulting a lawyer if she bothers us again in the future. My husband is kind of shaken up / upset / annoyed about this whole thing. He's taken some days off from work, and so have I. We'll plan a trip somewhere, maybe to take his mind off of these things. Right now, I need to be there for him. I won't be posting anything for now. We haven't contacted her boyfriend yet. My husband is not in the right headspace right now, and I feel it'll be better if we focus on ourselves for the time being. We don't want the added headache of how the boyfriend will react if he's in on this or whatever. We'll inform him after some time. I know this is selfish, but I think it's for the best. Thank you all for the responses. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.